Welcome back to the deep dive. This week, the source material we're working with is just, wow, it's a marathon, a really chaotic snapshot combining, intense political drama, some football, pop queens, personal travel stories, and even a really grim look at racism in sports.
It is. It's a lot to untangle,
Okay.
definitely. So our mission for you today really is to try and pull out the clarity, find the key facts, the dynamics underneath all of this, sometimes overwhelming information.
Think of it as your shortcut, yeah, a
Yeah.
way to get the context of the past week from D.C. all the way to the Super Bowl stage.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's jump straight into that chaos. The original hosts really set the mood immediately for the government shutdown talk. They kicked it off with public enemies, shut them down.
A clear signal.
Yeah, it signaled this wasn't just like abstract political games. This was about a genuine breakdown.
Precisely. And while Congress was, playing its usual brinkmanship,
Mm.
the reporting really zeroed in on the immediate real-world pain felt by federal employees. Because essential services, they couldn't just stop.
Right, we're talking about thousands of people, folks working for Homeland Security, ICE agents, Border Patrol. The sources mentioned specific callers, didn't they?
They did. People required to clock in, work their shifts, even though their paychecks were suddenly uncertain, delayed, maybe indefinitely.
And crucially, TSA agents, too, still there at the airport security checkpoints right in the middle of the shutdown chaos.
Yeah, and that just underscores it, doesn't it?
Right.
Non-essential services might stop, but things critical to national security, to travel, to commerce, they had to continue, which creates this huge financial anxiety for people doing really high-stakes jobs.
It's not just a political talking point, then. It's a serious administrative failure. It hits people's ability to pay their bills right in the gut.
Absolutely.
And that economic stress, that fallout, it leads us right into the deeper issue here, political polarization, which was made really painfully clear in that news quiz segment from the material. It showed something, I think, far beyond just typical disagreement. It looked like outright punitive action being, weaponized across different parts of the government.
Absolutely. So at the State Department, for instance, they revoked the visa for the president of Colombia.
Wow.
And the reason given. Apparently, he'd made some anti-Trump comments while he was at a protest in New York City.
So using diplomatic tools to enforce, domestic political loyalty, even against foreign leaders.
Seems that way. It demonstrates that willingness.
Yeah.
And the power plays were just as stark here at home.
Like the Department of Transportation withholding that huge chunk of funding, what was it, $37.5 million from Atlanta's airport?
That's right, a massive financial penalty. And the reason cited was the city's refusal to scrap its Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion program, its DEI program, which the administration had demanded they drop.
That's not just, a gentle nudge. That's a calculated financial hit designed to force compliance on social policy.
It really shows the administration viewing federal funding less as a service, maybe, and more as a lever for ideological control.
And we saw that control exerted militarily, too, didn't we? With the report about troops being ordered to Portland.
Yes, the order to deploy troops to protect the city from, quote-unquote, domestic terrorists, authorizing the use of full force.
Meanwhile, over in Congress, on the legislative side, Senate Democrats dug in, refusing to extend federal funding unless the health care subsidy extension was included.
Right. So what you end up with is this picture where every part of the government, machinery, diplomacy, funding, even the military, is being used as a weapon to gain political advantage or push a specific ideology.
It really is governing through conflict, isn't it?
It is. But what's really fascinating, and where the source material spent quite a bit of time, is digging into the psychology behind it all. The psychological foundations supporting these deep divisions, especially among the most fervent supporters.
Yeah, the host made this argument that debating certain opponents, specifically they mentioned those rooted in the MAGA base, is basically pointless.
Why pointless?
Because the evidence they rely on, it comes from, quote, feeling and faith, which makes traditional facts almost useless in changing minds.
And that's a crucial insight, even if it's, alarming. The analysis suggested that while one side might ground its view in data and research and proof and facts, the other bases it on, whatever narrative feels right or whatever the president, quote, yelled at a rally.
Right.
So objective facts, they just sort of bounce off.
But surely, if they're paying attention, the reality of their own finances, that must cut through. The sources use the tariffs as a prime example.
Ah, yes. This gets to the core of that cognitive dissonance they were exploring. The administration kept saying foreign nations, China specifically, were paying the tariffs.
Right, we heard that a lot.
Yet consumers were clearly paying more for basic things, coffee, beef, washing machines, at places like Walmart. But the sources argued that the belief in the president's words actually outweighed the hard evidence of their own grocery bill.
Wow. So reality is constructed by belief, not by what's actually happening in their bank account.
That's the argument presented. It's belief over empiricism.
That kind of entrenched thinking, that toxicity, unfortunately, it bleeds over into other parts of society, too. And we really have to address the most serious thing that came up in the reporting this week, that truly awful incident of racism in high school sports.
Yes, the football coach from Blue Valley North who was suspended.
The discussion around it really highlighted the systemic nature of this kind of toxicity.
It did. The coach was reportedly yelling at a black player about poor performance, and the source material detailed the specific hateful thing he said. Your college coaches will hang your ass from a tree.
Just hearing that, the gravity of that language, especially given American racial history, it's hard to overstate.
It really is.
It forces a really difficult look at things. The original discussion, it kind of wrestled with whether this was intentional, evil versus stupid behavior.
Right. Was it active malice? Or did it come from some sort of ingrained, unchecked toxicity the coach had just absorbed and maybe normalized over time?
Does the intent even matter at that point?
Well, regardless of his specific intent, whether he consciously meant to reference lynching or if it was just some phrase he'd, quote, heard his whole life, the consensus in the discussion seemed to be that the incident just shows how deep, how unrepaired, and how fundamentally toxic these racial issues still are in America, even in youth sports. It's a grim reminder, isn't it, that progress sometimes just masks these deeper, unresolved problems.
That is a heavy note, and a necessary one to sit with. But if we connect this idea, this power of belief systems, and maybe the calculations of power, it actually carries over surprisingly well into pop culture, where controversy often feels like, well, marketing with a financial plan attached.
Okay, let's pivot then to the Super Bowl. The NFL announces the halftime performer, Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny.
And boom. Immediate, and you could say totally predictable, conservative outrage.
Entirely predictable. The sources even mentioned a specific parody video that kind of summed up all the complaints perfectly.
What were they?
Oh, he's a foreigner. He's supposedly anti-ICE. He doesn't cater to the perceived traditional NFL audience. The quote was, the straight, white, English-speaking American man.
Right. But to really understand why the NFL made that choice, you have to look past the outrage, past the political noise.
You have to look at the data. Bad Bunny is the #2 streaming artist globally.
#2 in the world.
Exactly. That represents enormous market reach, especially with Gen Z, with the Latin American demographic, groups the NFL desperately wants to tap into and, frankly, monetize.
And let's add the political context here, too, because Bad Bunny hasn't been quiet. He's openly criticized U.S. political figures. He endorsed Kamala Harris. He was very critical of Trump's response to Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico.
So the NFL knew exactly who they were inviting to the world's biggest stage. They knew his politics.
So synthesizing the why, what does it tell us?
It gives us a really powerful glimpse into corporate strategy, I think. This choice signals the NFL is absolutely prioritizing making more and more money, capturing new massive audiences. They understand that commerce, expanding revenue, streaming power, it outweighs catering to political preferences that might, spark a boycott they think won't really stick.
Calculation is pretty simple then.
The money is bigger than the message, essentially.
Speaking of pop icons and market strategy, the sources also touched on Taylor Swift. Her new 12th studio album, The Life of a Showgirl, announced with that very specific timing, 12:12 a.m. on August 12th. Very Taylor.
Very Taylor. And the details around the album reveal an interesting, maybe strategic shift in her production. She reunited with Max Martin and Shellback.
The legends, the hit makers behind some of her biggest pop anthems like Bad Blood, Shake It Off.
Exactly. That reunion definitely signaled a potential move back toward that pure, hook-heavy pop sound.
But the release itself, the way it happened, it highlights this challenge that all megastars face now, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's not like the old days. No slow album rollout where you bought the CD to finally hear track 7. Now, streaming services, Spotify, SiriusXM, iHeartRadio, they make every single song available instantly. The whole album, right there.
So every song is basically a single from day one.
Functionally, yes.
Mhm.
which changes how artists think about sequencing an album, how marketing teams promote it. You're not building up to the big reveal. The whole buffet is served at once.
And just briefly on other entertainment news, there was a more personal note about a true legend, Dolly Parton.
Ah, yes. At 79, she had to postpone her very first Las Vegas residency, first one in over 30 years.
Due to some unspecified health issues needing procedures. That residency at Caesar's Palace, it's now pushed back to September 2026.
Just undertaking a first-time Vegas residency at that age is incredible. Speaks to her drive.
Absolutely. We certainly wish her well. It does highlight, though, the inescapable reality of, well, age and health.
Indeed.
Okay, let's pivot now to the more personal, maybe more relatable stories that kind of grounded all this big picture stuff. Focusing on that powerful theme of nostalgia and community, we heard about Molly visiting from New York.
Right, Molly's visit. It was like a perfect little case study in the economics of memory, you could say.
How so?
Well, she lives in New York City, right? Access to arguably the best dining in the world. But she insisted on going to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Buffalo Wild Wings? Okay.
Not for the wings, apparently,
Ah.
but because that specific restaurant was where she and her dad used to have dinner every Monday night for years, driven by the 2-for-1 kids meal special they had back then.
Ah, okay. So it's a choice driven purely by the memory attached to the place, the nostalgia.
Exactly. Being in that same space where those childhood connections happened, it's the commodity of memory, overriding maybe objective quality.
And her visit also tied into the local entertainment scene, right?
It did. She was in town to see a concert by Chappell Rand, who's a pop singer with regional roots. Though the source made a point of correcting the local news, which apparently often says she's from the big city nearby, when she's actually from the smaller Springfield area. A little bit of local pride there.
Always important to get the hometown right, and her visit also linked up with her cousin Cameron.
Yeah, Cameron flew in from L.A. He's working in film and TV. Just wrapped an episode of the new Matlock and an HBO show called The Rachel Sennett.
That sounds exciting.
It highlights that sort of deep pride and community connection you feel with family success, especially in those high-profile fields like entertainment.
And speaking of local pride, the sources gave a shout out to a neighborhood spot, Giacomo Joe's.
That's the one, on Coburn Road, described as just good food quickly, famous for its Reuben sandwich, apparently.
This is like my kind of place.
And the details about its strict hours, closed Monday and Tuesday, just reinforces that feeling of a beloved local institution that runs on its own terms.
Yeah, you got to respect the schedule. And finally, kind of woven through everything this week, from the politics to the personal stuff.
But tech frustration.
Yes, that low-level unifying frustration with technology not working right.
Oh, yeah. The hosts spent a good bit of time lamenting the struggles. Audio issues, the Mannycam, streaming software glitches, the KCTK radio app, just the constant battle to keep things running smoothly for a live broadcast across different platforms.
It really underscores those daily headaches for independent media trying to get consistent content out there in this digital age.
It's a constant fight.
Okay, so we've covered a week that was really defined by deep political divides where, as the sources argued, belief can actively override fact, and a culture where commercial calculations drive billion-dollar decisions, like who plays the Super Bowl halftime show.
And then juxtaposed right against all that, we saw the persistent, really powerful pull of nostalgia, of local life, community connections.
Yeah, the source materials really showed these powerful, almost like gravitational forces shaping our reality, didn't they?
They did. We learned the NFL picked Bad Bunny, the #2 streamer, based purely on financial projections. Culture war stuff didn't matter as much. At the same time, Molly chose a chain restaurant, B-Dubs, based entirely on the emotional pull of childhood memory, overriding any objective food critique.
Which brings us to an important question for you, the listener, to think about.
Yeah, what's stronger in your own life? Is it the objective data of success, financial opportunity, proven facts, or is it that emotional pull? Nostalgia, deeply held belief. Do your choices tend to line up more with what's commercially dominant, maybe what's rational on paper, or with what's personally memorable, what feels emotionally resonant?
Something to definitely mull over until our next deep dive. Stay curious.